Alright, sup nerds, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm gonna be doing something a little bit different. Not exactly a gameplay video like I did last time on Tuesday, but this is, yeah, obviously a little different. This is the Left 4 Dead timeline, created by me, with the help of the Left 4 Dead Wikia. Um, yeah, they mainly did all the heavy lifting, I guess. Yeah. So go check it out. The way you'll find the timeline is by putting in the green flu, and then getting on that page, and then it'll show you like an infection timeline. However, this does also include the events from the campaigns in the games. Um, so yeah, there's that. If you all wanted to know, like what campaign takes place, and just kind of what time I guess it is. I guess I don't know. So yeah, let's just get right in. Get right into it right now. Right here, right now. I'm gonna actually get to the point. Alright, so the pre-infection timeline. So, well before the infection started, let's talk about some important events that need to be spoken about. During the 20th century, in about 1988, a health company or a health organization was created called the Civil Emergency and Defense Agency, otherwise known as CEDA. CEDA is based off both the Center for Disease Control and Prevention and the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Since its creation, it would go on to protect the world from numerous illnesses and diseases. That would be until the green flu virus, which would be their downfall. All right. Let's talk about some survivors in the NPCs before we actually get into it. Pre-infection, William Bill Overback. William Bill Overback was a Vietnam War veteran who took 2 tours, or 2 years-ish, in Vietnam. During his second tour, some shrapnel would get launched into his knee and quickly end his military career, causing permanent damage. So, bad knee. Between this and the first infection, he mainly worked dead-end jobs, which would only keep him afloat temporarily. Francis. The second survivor here is Francis. He is loud and cocky in his life and worked at a shipping company called Hirsch. However, he was fired after assaulting a man. Did he kill him? We may never know. He later joined Hell's Legion, a motorcycle club based off the real-life Hell's Angels. Pre-infection, Lewis. Yeah, here we go. Lewis worked as a junior systems analyst at Franklin Brothers IT department. During his lunch breaks, he would often go to the shooting range for practice, which his coworkers would often make fun of him for. It is also implying that he is a gamer due to all the other Valve game references, such as Team Fortress 2, Half-Life, Counter-Strike, all that. Zoe. Alright. Zoe was a student at Aldrich University in Pennsylvania under a scholarship, but instead of attending class, she would stay in her dorm and watch horror movies, justifying this as research to her parents. She got a love from these films from her father, Wade, who was a police officer and wanted his daughter to join the force when she was old enough, often taking her to the gun range for practice. This caused tension between him and his wife, Carolyn, which the two would later separate over, I guess. Alright, let's get into the other half of the survivors, who were led by Coach. Coach's real name is actually unknown, unlike the other survivors. However, what is known is that he was a defensive lineman in his football career. However, a knee injury ended that after a little while. Soon after, he was barely able to salvage his physical education career, and he landed a job as a health teacher and a coach at the high school in his hometown of Savannah. Alright, youngest of the second half of the survivors is Ellis, or L, for short, I guess. He was a mechanic and had a love for life. He also ran an auto shop with his buddies and played bass in a band. That was so difficult to say for some reason. He was born and raised in Savannah, Georgia, along with Coach, but the two never met each other. The more mysterious survivor of the second half is Nicholas, or simply Nick. Before the infection, he was a con artist and a gambler. He spent his life going from city to city and trying to stay out of jail. During his latest escape, he stole a $3,000 suit and some rings to replace his inmate clothes. He also married a woman, but later divorced her for unknown reasons. And the final and eighth survivor, Rochelle, or Ro, though no one really calls her that. The female of the second survivor group is Rochelle. Not a lot is known about her pre-infection, but what is known is that she was born in Cleveland, Ohio, and got a job at a big-name news station. The name of the news station is unknown. However, she was only able to work lowly jobs such as lugging cables and getting coffee. This would continue until the outbreak. Alright. Final bit here are the Npcs, before we actually get into the infection timeline. A man named Whitaker owns a gun store and holds all kinds of guns in it next to the Savannah Mall. He is also open 364 days a year, with only one day off. What a trooper. And it's actually typo there. It's not a rocket launcher, it's just a grenade launcher. How he got his hands on that, we may never know. A couple, John and Amanda Slater, marry, but later have marriage issues after John buys a boat. Another couple like them, Virgil and an unnamed woman, get married, buy a boat, and keep their marriage intact. As you can see, Whitaker is on the left side, John is in the middle, or John's boat is in the middle, and Virgil's boat is on the very right. Alright, now let's get into the actual infection timeline. Probably what you were all here to see. Alright, so, yeah. Goes from late October to early November 2008. Day 1. Patient 0 gets sick with the new infection, which is dubbed the green flu virus. It is also theorized that the virus is also in livestock for some time, or it could just be some spore from space. I'm looking at you, Robert Kirkman. This is also when people start disappearing and start disappearing in rural areas. CETA takes patient 0 and brings them to Mercy Hospital in Fairfield, Pennsylvania. Other people are also infected by the green flu. It more or less turns them into zombies, or if you want to be specific, just aggressive people. And between day 1 and day 23, Virgil's wife is bit and is put down. It's not technically day 1, but it's somewhere before day 23. Day 2. At this point, news of the green flu gets out and people start thinking it's just another flu epidemic. CETA also begins taking charge and starts telling civilians how to prevent the spread of infection. A piece of propaganda would be on the bottom, would be the figure at the bottom right. It is now when infected individuals start attacking the non-infected. Day 3. As the infected start getting out of control, local law enforcement and CETA begin quarantining houses, stores, and apartments in Fairfield and Whitney County in Pennsylvania, Newburgh and Rayford in Georgia, and New Orleans in Louisiana. While this is happening, Bill, Francis, Lewis, and Zoe have their first encounter with the infected. Now, I'll explain later. Lewis tries going to the restroom at his job when he encounters his first infected individual, a coworker. After he kills the infected person, he looks into his office to find it in shambles and all of his coworkers dead. He looks out into the world and sees it falling apart. Eventually, he leaves his office. Zoe returns from college to visit her divorced parents. During dinner, an argument occurs between two parents, but an infected finds its way in and bites Carolyn. Wade is able to kill the infected and holds Carolyn in his arms as Zoe gets an ambulance. When she returns, Zoe sees her mother eating Wade, who is then shot by the latter. So Wade shoots the mother. Wade tells Zoe to shoot him, which she does after saying goodbye. Francis tries to steal a flat-screen TV when he is caught by the police. He tries to say he is a cop gathering evidence, but they don't believe him. At a bar later, Francis goes to boast and say goodbye to his friends, Duke, Danny, and his other biker friends. But his girlfriend Sandra wants to spend some quality time with him before leaving. Wink, wink. Sandra pukes on his vest and soon after turns into a common infected. When she is about to bite Francis a second time, Danny shoots her. Realizing it is not a normal flu, Francis grabs a shotgun, a jukebox, and his remaining friends to the roof to start a killing spree. It is unknown what happened to Francis's friends, but they either left or were killed by the infected. And then finally, Bill. Bill was at a Veterans Memorial Hospital, possibly for his knee surgery, when one of the nurses got infected when he was passed out from the how do you say that? Anesthesia? I'm going full on dumb right now. Bill fights through the unconsciousness and is able to kill the nurse with a bone saw. Bill is able to fight through the infected all the way to his house, where he dons his military uniform once again. Alright, so now things just start passing by in like a bit of a blur. So, on day 4, the government starts distributing face masks to slow the spread of the infection. On day 5, law enforcement starts quarantining entire streets with each end having a patrol car being guarded. Day 6 sees CETA start giving instructions on how to build proper safe rooms. People take this into consideration and build safe rooms in basements, shops, and apartments. And then by the first week into the green flu, traffic accidents and fires start occurring in Fairfield due to people wanting to leave the city. And alright, by day 8, CETA, not wanting to spread the infection, CETA quarantines Fairfield Airport. And they then begin evacuating civilians via buses and helicopters. On day 9, other airports in Savannah and Newburgh are quarantined. By day 10, the U.S. military takes its first action against Fairfield. They send a small task force to secure the city, but they all slip and fail and all die. They all slip and fail and die. On day 11, the military then takes to setting up barricades at the highways and bridges outside the city to contain the infection. On day 12, survivors in Fairfield begin boarding up and fortifying places for safety, including a generator room, hospital roof, and an apartment roof, and a supermarket. On day 13, helicopter pilots volunteer to rescue Fairfield survivors from the Mercy Hospital rooftop. Alright, now we're going to actually get into the games. But 2 weeks into the infection, most of Fairfield is overrun by the infected. Infected individuals then begin to mutate into special infected, and the flu begins to spread further into the United States. These special infected are called the Witch, a wailing female infected who will wreck anyone that bothers her. The Tank, a giant muscular zombie who will wreck anyone unless survivors work together to kill him. The Boomer, an obese zombie whose vomit can attract hordes of common infected. The Hunter, an agile infected that can leap far far and off tall ledges, and the smoker, an infected that can shoot out his tongue to strangle survivors. Between day 3 and day 14, Bill, Francis, Lewis, and Zoe make a small team consisting of themselves. They travel down a small alley, and begin to work together to survive. Now the events of the actual game starts taking place. The events of the Left 4 Dead introduction scene takes place. The four travel down a small alley where Bill finds out they are changing. They're changing into the special infected. They then encounter a witch, smoker, and a small horde of common infected. In the aftermath of the fight, Lewis runs out to get a nearby helicopter's attention, but is attacked by a hunter. Zoe saves him, but the body sets off an alarm, attracting an even bigger horde of infected and a tank. We all love the tanks, don't we? After a brief struggle with the tank in the alley, all four survivors barely escape onto the roof when the tank takes the whole... I'm just not good with words today. When the tank takes the whole fire escape with him as he plummets to his death. Alright, now the events of the actual campaign start taking place. With the Left 4 Dead No Mercy campaign taking place immediately after. Soon after, the helicopter pilot returns and offers to evacuate them if they go to Mercy Hospital, one of CEDA's evacuation sites. Bill leads the four of them through the apartments, streets, subway, and sewers of Fairfield, and are able to reach the hospital lobby. Upon entering, they find the hospital ravaged and overrun by infected of all types. However, they are able to skip most of the hospital via elevator, going to the 28th out of 30 floors. They are able to reach the rooftop and get the pilot's attention. After fighting through a horde, a tank, another horde, and another tank, the chopper arrives. The four survivors are able to get in it before the infected can get them. This was the last reported rescue from Mercy Hospital. Day 15. By early morning, by early morning of day 15, the No Mercy campaign ends. I'd say chapter 15 chapter 5 of the campaign probably takes place early day 15. So anyway, okay, so minutes after the rescue, the helicopter pilot starts turning into a common infected. Zoe shoots him in time, but the helicopter ends up crashing. Survivors are able to get back and continue through the back alleys of Whitney County. Setting off the events of Left 4 Dead, the Crash Course DLC campaign. Survivors are able to get back up and continue through the back alleys of Whitney County, Fairfield. During their search for rescue, the survivors find an armored truck which they need to lower via generator. After cranking it up, a horde approaches them. They're able to take out the horde, a tank, another horde, before simultaneously taking out a second tank and restarting the generator. The truck is lowered and the four barely escape from the incoming horde. Alright, cool. Now, day 16 rolls around. After a full day of driving away from Fairfield, the survivors enter the Riverside Highway, which has been destroyed in the chaos. They are forced to abandon the truck and enter the town on foot. Why they're doing this is because it's like a rumored safe zone, and they want safety. Yeah, so then the events of Left 4 Dead Death Toll campaign take place. On the way in, they meet a church guy who tries to send a horde on them. It fails, and he succumbs to his infection before being killed by one of the survivors. He turns either into a hunter, smoker, or boomer. Yeah, in the Left 4 Dead version, Left 4 Dead 2, it adds the other 3 infected. The four then find a boathouse outside after figuring out that hey, this place ain't safe because it's overrun. They just they leave the town and they find a boathouse just outside, right? And they get help from John and Amanda Slater. After fighting through, once you guessed it, a horde, a tank, a second horde, and a second tank, the survivors barely escape from the third horde on the boats. However, shortly after, yeah, shortly after, between an argument occurs between the Slaters and the survivors. The pair kick the survivors out of the boat and into the city of Newburgh. They hold out in a greenhouse for the day. At night, they see a crashing C-130 airship, giving them hope that the Metro International Airport is still evacuating people. So this is where the events of Left 4 Dead: Dead Air take place. Oh, I lose my track sometimes every time I look at the different place. Survivors fight through the city and the bombed airport until they go to the airfield and find a singular airplane pilot who is willing to rescue them. After refueling the plane and fighting the infected, the survivors get into the hangar of the plane, and the plane takes off, barely escaping once more. Now, Day 17. Not much is known of Day 17, but it can be theorized that the airplane crashed somewhere near Allegheny National Forest, according to Francis in the Sacrifice comic. However, there is also a cut campaign bridging the gap between Dead Air and the following campaign, Blood Harvest, called Dang It. I don't know if that's going to get me demonetized, but yeah. Anyway, basically it showed the survivors leaving the airplane and fighting through an orchid and some campgrounds before finding a dam. They pushed through the dam and escaped into the Allegheny National Forest. Day 18. At dusk of Day 18, survivors decide to get help from nearby military outposts. Thus, the events of Left 4 Dead: Blood Harvest take place. After fighting through the forest, they find a farmhouse which they hold out in until they are rescued by a military APC, or Armored Personnel Carrier for those who would like to know. They are then taken to a military base to get tested for infection, where Bill and Zoe are separated from Francis and Lewis. Everything that occurred after being rescued by the APC is seen in the Left 4 Dead Sacrifice comic Part 1, Lewis, which also simultaneously takes place during the finale for Blood Harvest immediately after. Alright. Day 19. 19 days into this. Great. Day 19. By the time Day 19 rolls around, the next two issues of the Sacrifice comic takes place. Part 2, Zoe, and Part 3, Francis. While continuing to test Bill and Zoe, in Part 2, while continuing to test Bill and Zoe, the doctor there explains to them they are carriers, people who don't show signs of the infection, but are in fact infected with the virus. Like himself. Meanwhile, a lieutenant of the base gets sick of how they do things and keeping the carriers with him and everything. He sounds the evacuation alarm and attracts a giant horde of infected over to them. In the scuffle, the survivors and doctor find a train, but the doctor is killed when Bill refuses to go back for him and other personnel there. It's presumed that almost all of the personnel there were killed by the horde. This makes Zoe lose her trust in Bill. Alright. Now, Day 20. Oh, wait, spoilers. Spoilers on this. If you really want to, read the comics or anything, this is your spoiler warning. 3, 2, 1. Great. Okay. Day 20. Unfortunately, the infection was able to break out of Pennsylvania and went down south along the east coast, eventually reaching Savannah and Rayford, Georgia. This is where the survivors are also heading. After running out of train tracks, Bill decides to lead the group to a sailboat on the coast to find some islands where they would be safe from both the military and the infected. As they make their way through Rayford, Lewis gets injured by a witch after nearly opening a boat full of them. Like, literally. There's like 30 of them in one boat. Yeah, but he was able to escape and keep them locked up. When the survivors reach the port of Rayford, they start a generator to raise a bridge so they can get their boat out of the bay. This one's a clean boat. And a sailboat. However, the generator jams and before they can reach a safe height, meaning the infector is still able to reach them after enough climbing. Out of ammo, ideas, and morale, one of these survivors, canonically Bill, jumps down the bridge and fights his way through the infected. Fights their way through the infected. They are able to power the generator back on, saving their group, but dooming themselves as three out of the 4 tanks start attacking them and kill them. The 4th tank was killed by the other survivors. After reaching the desired distance, the remaining 3 decide to wait out the horde on the bridge. On the more global front, 3 new special infected come to pass. The Charger, which has a giant right arm that can charge and ram into anybody. The Jockey, an insane infected that will jump on survivors and control their direction. And the Spitter, who can spit a green ball of acid that will hurt anyone who enters it or touches it. Alright. Day 21. Alright. As the infection starts ravaging through Savannah, Georgia, Sita establishes an evac station on the Vanna Hotel rooftop, where the survivors get extracted via military helicopters. It is around this time when Nick comes around to Savannah to scam some people, and Rochelle, after her staff starts calling in sick, gets her first break on the Savannah story. However, while setting up, she and her cameraman are attacked by the infected, with the cameraman dying, and Rochelle, along with Nick, going to get evacuated. Unfortunately, the last of the helicopters leave without Coach, Nick, Ellis, and Rochelle. The 4 reluctantly form an alliance to get to the evac station at the mall. This is where the events of Left 4 Dead 2 Dead Center campaign, the very first campaign in the Left 4 Dead 2. It's where it takes place. Alright. After taking up arms and fighting through the hotel, the street, they find a gun shop and meet Whitaker. Whitaker wants a box of cola in the store, which the alarm will alert a horde. After getting the cola and blowing up the gas truck in the way, the survivors enter the safe room at the mall. Inside, they find the mall is completely ransacked and abandoned. With nowhere else to go, Coach decides they should go to the military outpost in New Orleans. I thought it was New Orleans at first, but nope, it's New Orleans. New Orleans. Just a little fun fact there. In Louisiana. They agree and escape the mall after fueling up the Jimmy Gibbs Jr. stock car. Basically a race car. For those who don't know what a stock car is. Alright. Going to the night, after driving for some time, the survivors enter Rayford, where they meet the other survivors at the bridge, making the most ultimate crossover that can ever happen, ever. I reread that part. A conversation ensues, leading the second set of survivors to go around the bridge and refuel the generator so the other survivors can lower the bridge for them. The L4D2 survivors backtrack through the town, go underground into the sewers, and come back around the port where they refuel the generator, kill the 3 tanks with the help of the OG survivors, or original in this case, not original gangster, like it's supposed to mean. But yeah. As the Left 4 Dead 2 survivors continue their journey to New Orleans, the original survivors raise the bridge again and get on the sailboat and go to the island. I forgot to mention, that whole thing, going into night, and after that, that's when the passing takes place. It's a DLC campaign, but also apparently considered the most important one. Yeah, so as they're leaving, the original survivors raise the bridge again and get on the sailboat to go to the island, where after some time they find an island to live on. That occurs on the last page of the Sacrifice comic. With day 21, it brings an end to the original Survivors story, while only beginning the second Survivors. Day 22. Sometime between day 22 and 24, the military takes over all of Sita's outposts and operations, since they have failed their duties. I believe it's on day 22 when they start taking over all the remaining outposts, but that have not already been overrun, which, spoiler alert, there's few. Yeah. But on the smaller scale throughout the day, while driving, the survivors, the second set of survivors, which I'm just going to call the survivors now, take rest stops to sleep and eat while driving before getting stopped by a bunch of cars on a highway. And then the events of Left 4 Dead 2 Dark Carnival campaign take place. Since there are too many cars, the survivors are forced to leave Jimmy Gibbs Jr.'s car and continue on foot. After making their way through the highway and a motel, they find the Whispering Oaks amusement park. The four make their way through the amusement park before coming across the Midnight Riders concert. The unstarted concert because, the infection and everything. They play the concert and get a nearby helicopter's attention, which they are able to escape to. Alright, now day 23. Day 23. We're almost done, don't worry. Just two more days. Alright. By day 23, during the early the survivors start thinking that they're safe, but the pilot turns during the early hours of the day, and Nick, much like Zoe, is forced to shoot him. The helicopter crashes and the survivors are left on their own in the swamp country. It's around the Bayou-ish area in Louisiana. Or Mississippi, I can't exactly remember. The four traverse through this is where Left 4 Dead 2 Swamp Fever campaign takes place. The four traverse through the mucky swamps and an old town. By sunrise, they make their way to a mansion or a plantation. They find out the town did not last and is not safe from the infected. They're able to contact a boat captain named Virgil, who will rescue them. They hold out against two hordes and three tanks. Literally 3 tanks. 2 of them at the same time. Troopers, I must say. Before barely escaping onto the boat, which saves them. With that, they make their way to New Orleans through the water. However, Virgil realizes he is running low on fuel and will need to gas himself back up. So he takes the survivors to Duckadell, Mississippi to get some fuel. When they fight, this is where Left 4 Dead 2 Hard Rain, that campaign takes place. They then fight through the town and a sugar mill to a safe room which holds 4 gas cans. They strap each one to their backs and begin their journey to return in the hurricane. They return to the dock safely, but have to light up a restaurant sign to get Virgil's attention. After fighting off the horde, the 4 escape onto Virgil's boat. By now, the military has taken over all the remaining Sita outposts, but New Orleans is lost sometime during day 22 and day 23. Alright, here we go. Last slide. Alright, day 24. Don't mind that. Alright. After resting for the night, Virgil and the survivors finally arrive at the docks of New Orleans. There they go to find a military base to keep them. They're over at the docks, and they see it's overrun by the infected. Survivors choose to fight through them while Virgil leaves to rescue more people. This is where the final campaign, Left 4 Dead 2: The Parish, takes place. So they fight through the city. They fight through the whole city to find a military base. However, they eventually reach the Veterans Memorial Bridge without finding any sign of life other than themselves. And there they find, or there through a, I went brain dead. There through a military radio, they find out that the military is trying to bomb the bridge to keep the infection at bay as much as they can. They're able to contact the military and give themselves enough time for the 4 survivors to cross the bridge into a rescue helicopter and fly away from New Orleans. The bridge is bombed, but the fate of the world, infection, and survivors is left ambiguous. Alright, that's about it. That's about all we know about the Left 4 Dead 2 timeline. If you guys enjoyed it, or if you think I started to, or whatever. Anyway, if you guys just enjoyed it, do whatever. Leave a like, I guess. I don't know. Alright, bye-bye.